we have f inside f, we say that a loop is nested if it has a loop inside its body. When the body of a loop contains another loop, then the two loops are known as nested loop. I will give you two types of examples with nested loops. One that is doing a normal program, and then it will ask you to repeat doing data program. And another type of nested loop is that when you display shape of numbers, and we'll explain it to you in a moment. So let us go for the first type, and I will do that by a simple program that we will do it on Java, and then we will come back on this slide. The program that we are going to solve, we will read it together. We will do it in two steps here, 1 and 2. The first part, it says write a program to do the following. It reads a positive integer number and a digit from 0 to 9. So the input will be 2, a positive integer number, and a digit from 0 to 9. Then the program will display how many times this digit appears in the number. It means how many times it is repeated in the number. So let us start. I have already prepared the program, so we will need initially two variables. One we will call it number, and the second one we will call it digit. First we will ask the user, so this is input. We will ask the user, please enter a positive integer and a digit. So we will read both numbers in one message, and a digit from 0 to 9. So we will assume now here that the user is faithful and will really give us a positive number and will give us a digit from 0 to 9. Otherwise, we have to put enforcement on that by supplying if statements or by doing some manipulation to the number to convert it to positive and etc. So we will read first the number n dot next int and digit equal to n dot next int. Now, if you want to test for how many digits appear in this number, we have to go over the digits of the number one by one. And if you remember, we do this by a loop. So how to do this loop? We will write while number is greater than or equal to 0. Then we will do two things. The first thing is read the rightmost digit, and I will define a temporary variable inside the loop, and I'm going to call it d, and this will be equal to number modulus 10. And you have to get rid of this digit, so delete the rightmost digit by dividing number by 10. So if you put this one in a loop, you will go over the digits from right one by one. Here you check for the digit, and we will say that. And so again, we will say f d equal the digit that the user is asking for. Now here we need to update a counter because we need to know how many. And if you remember, when we say how many, then this is a counting task. To do this, we need to go up and define a counter. I will define the counter on separate line, and I'm going to call it digit count, and we initialize it to 0. And if this happens, then we will update the counter by saying digit count plus a plus. I will put the comment behind the statement. So here we are going to update the counter. That's all what we have to do inside the loop. And when we exit the loop, then we have to print to the user how many digits appear in the number. We will say there are, and we will put the number, digit count, digits, n, and we will print the number. That's all what we have to do for the number. And maybe here we can, if the user did not comply to our message and by mistake or accidentally entered negative number, there is a solution. We can say if number less than 0. So very simple, we can say that number will be equal to minus number, and this will not change the operation of the loop. But let us leave it now like this. We need to test it that it does not have any errors. Let's run it now and see if there are any errors. So we will compile it. Oops, it seems that there are errors. Oh, here I forgot to remove the closing double quotation. Let's compile it again and check. It seems that there is another problem. Here I have a variable, I called it should be number, and it should not be equal to num, and compile it again. Now there are no errors, so let us run and test the program. The program is asking for to enter a positive integer, so we will write 2 3 3 3 4 3, and we will ask how many times a 3 is repeated. It says there are 4 digits and there are 4 digits. No, we should say that 4 is repeated, 3 is repeated that amount of in this number, but see why it's printing 0. Here also we have another problem. Let's solve this issue. So first we need to change the message. It is wrong. We will say that digit appears this amount of times, appears this amount of times in number. So 4 appears 3 times, or 3 appears 3 times in number. But why number is 0? Because if you look in the loop here, we were processing on number. So we keep dividing by 10, keep dividing by 10, and at the end it will be equal to 0. So what we're supposed to do, we will just create a variable. We will save this number into a variable called num, and we will work on num. So num is a copy of number. So if we change it, later the last value will not be used, but we will depend on number. We will run it again now and see. So 3 4 4 3 4 3 4 6. So how many times let's say 4 appears in this number? It says that 4, where is it? It says 4 appears 4 times in this number. So the program is working fine, and we needed only one loop. This is for the first part. Now for the second part, it says allow the user or the program. So the program should be allowed to ask the user to try again for another integer. So when you run the program, it will ask for one integer and it will terminate. If you want the program to ask again, then you have to run the program again. But in reality, in a practical situation, this should not happen. When your program is running, let the user, while the program is running, let the user to repeat the program. Not every time wants to repeat it, go and run the program, and it will be a headache to the user. So how to do it? It says ask the user to try again or not by entering yes to try again. Any other word will exit the program. Where we will do this, we will do this at the end of this message. Here I'm going to define a variable as a string because we will input from the user yes or no, and I'm going to call it answer, and we will read it from the user as one word. But remember, we have to tell the user that we are waiting for you to type something. Enter yes to try again, any other word to exit the program. So this is our message, and this is what we're supposed to do. Now we will check for the answer, and remember this is a string, so we are going to use answer dot equals ignore case. We will check for yes, and if this is the case, then we have to go back to the beginning, which is here. Okay, we should go back to the beginning, which is here. So that means we need another loop. So how to do this loop? Now, since notice we are having the first number, asking the user to give a digit, and we finished. And then at the end we are testing. So it looks like the condition is at the end. So the best way to repeat this code is to use do while. So we will use do. I will open a bracket, and here at the end we will close the bracket, and we will change f into while. So if this is the case, if the answer is yes, then it will go back. As long as the condition is yes, it will go back. Now I want to format the program so that the indentation is correct. I will click this for indentation. Now see, it is linking, or it is each part with its components, and then I will click the one that is next to it to cancel it. And now this is our program. It consists in fact of two loops. One we have that is inside, responsible for solving our problem, and the other one which is outside, responsible for repeating. We will run the program and see how it works. There is an error. It says answer variable answer. Okay, there is a problem, and here I need to explain. Now when you define a variable inside the loop, so Java compiler will assume that you can use it only inside the loop, even on the condition here. So since I am using that one variable outside the loop, it is considered as outside the loop, then I need to define this variable outside the loop. So I will go outside the loop in here, and I'm going to define it outside, and then leave the definition inside the loop. Let's run it again and see. And now we don't have any problem because we defined the string outside the loop. Enter a number. We have 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4. How many times do we have 4? It says that 4 appears 3 times and says enter yes to try again, any other word to exit the program. So I will say yes. So it is asking again 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 3, 2, 1. How many times 1 appears? Then it says that it appears 9 times. Enter yes to try again, and this will keep going on until I press something else when I'll say no, and it will quit the program. So as you notice, now we have two loops. We have one loop responsible for solving the problem, and another loop for trying again. Since we have a loop inside the loop, so the situation is called nested loop. So the example that we have solved is almost similar to this example. It says write a program that reads a positive integer and displays the sum of its digits. So in our program, we counted how many times a digit is repeated. Here we are finding the sum of the digits. The idea is the same. So we will have nested loop. We will have do while for repeating the same. If you're repeating, trying again. And we have an inner loop for responsible for finding the summation of the digits. And see, we are defining string outside the do while, because if you define it inside the loop, then it can be used only inside the loop. The other type of problems that we are going to use nested loop is when you print a table of numbers or shapes. Here we have a table of numbers. We could also print a table of shapes like hashes and stars and dots and etc. Here also you need nested loop. And in here we are going to depend on counting. So the type of loops that we are going to use here best is using for loop, because we depend on counting. If I ask you how many lines do we have in here, you would say 5. So you are counting. How many columns do we have? We have also 5. We can print those numbers using two different ways. This is the first way and this is the second way. First type of solution that if you want to print a table of numbers is that you create a loop that is counting how many rows 1 to 5, and the loop is counting how many columns from 1 to 5, and these are displayed on top. So these are the column numbers and these are the row numbers, and then you have to relate every number inside the table which is printed on the screen with the value of column and row. See, for example, 9. 9, if you look at what is the value for row, it is a 3, and what is the value of column, it is a 3. So it is the multiplication of row by column. And also for 16, it is 4 times 4. Also, if you go, for example, to 8, it is 2 times 4. If you go to 20, it is 5 times 4. So now you know the relationship, how these numbers are printed. You simply go inside a print, and this should be print, not a println. And you print inside row by column. See, row is the variable used for the outer loop, and column is the variable used inside the loop and used inside the for loop. So this is outer loop and this is inner loop. But this way sometimes is difficult to find the relationship between the numbers inside the one that is printed with the values that goes from 1 to 5 for both rows. I'm going to show you a way that's a little bit easy that you can apply it on any type of problems. Let us see how we can do this. And instead of this code, let me show you how to do the other code. Okay, now for this method, here what we have is the numbers that we want to print on the screen. You make a table, you write on the first column row, and then here you write column loops. So I will say column loops here. For this table, take those numbers in this row from the first column. So fill it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I will make them in blue color because we will take them from the outer loop. Next, for each row, write down the beginning and ending of each numbers that you are printing and how they are incremented or printed one after the other. For row number 1, the loop should go from 1. I will write it also in red color. So the first row will go from 1 and will be incremented by 1. Between the numbers, it will go up to 5. Now for row number 2, see, it will start from 2. And will also be incremented by 1, and the last number is equal to 10. But is it really incremented by 1? No, it is incremented by 2. Now for the third one, it is starting from 3, and it is incremented by 3, and also going up to 15. For the fourth one, it will go from 4, and each number is incremented by 4, and then it will reach 20, and finally the last one, 5, also increased by 5, and will go up to 25. So the numbers that are in a blue color are responsible by this loop, and the numbers that are in red color are responsible by this loop. See, I'm printing column, which is the value inside. Now let us fill these parameters from this table. Now for the first loop, which is the blue color, see, it starts from 1, so I'm going to write 1. And now since it is C, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, so it is increased by 1. Since it is increased by 1, so here we write row plus a plus. Now for the condition, since the number from 1 to 5, see the numbers 1 to 5 is increasing, so we will write row less than equal to, and the last number we have is 5, so we write 5. This is about the outer loop. I will just remove those not to confuse you, and I will remove these lines not to confuse you, So this is the loop, outside loop, that is responsible for the row. Now for the red color loop, it is not stable. As you see, for each row we have different loop. For row number 1, this loop should start from 1. For row number 2, it should not start from 1, should start from 2. So if I put 1, for example, here, then every time we come to this loop, it will start from 1. But this is not the case what we are having. We are having that it starts from 2, 3. So I have to relate this number with a number that is already changing. Now look at the initial values for each loop. It is equal to row. See, when row is 1, the column loop will start from 1. If it is 2, it will start from 2. So that tells me that the initial value for column should be equal to row. And see here, I'm writing row. Now we will go for the condition. Now for the condition, as you notice, each loop inside is increasing. And since it is increasing, so the condition that we are going to write will be column less than or equal to. Now I have to see the last number for each column. See the last number for each column. Here it is increment. It is, the last value is 5. Here the last value is 10. Here is the last value 15. So here what the number shall I put for column less than or equal to? Again, since they are changing 5, 10, I have to relate it with row. So what is the relationship between 5 and row, 10 and row? Notice now, here you are getting 5 of 1. Here you are getting 10 of 2. Here you are getting 15 of 3. So it looks like you are multiplying row by 5. So the answer will be row multiplied by 5. And now we'll go to the update. Now the update which is inside, see the first loop is updated by 1. The second loop is updated by 2. So the update is not fixed. Again, if the update is not fixed, then you have to relate it with row. And see, if row is 1, it is updated by 1. If row is 2, it is updated by 2. So the answer for the update here, it will be column plus equal row, because we need to increase it by the amount of row. And after you fill these parameters, just simply run the program and it will give you the answer.